stuff to the extent reasonable. That'd be great.
Yep. Okay, so welcome to the Node.js Technical Steering Committee meeting for September 28th, 2022. We will follow our agenda as outlined in the issue that was created in the TSC repo. That was issue number 1287. Before we get started, does anybody have any announcements they'd like to share?
18.10 came out today.
Excellent.
Thank you, Raphael, and everybody else who made it happen.
Also, this weekend is the Collaborator Summit, so looking forward to meeting people there.
Oh yeah, I'll call into a session on that. I assume I will. I haven't seen what time it's going to be for related to ESM and async hooks and loaders. Mateo was setting that up.
Yeah, and that's actually a good point that like even if you can't make it in person, there is the option to come in to call in remotely. So we look forward to people doing that. Okay, let's move on to the issues that were tagged for the agenda. The first one is, I guess,
first thing is family option node 44731. I think I'm the one who added it, and I don't think we need to discuss it, but I will give a summary, which is that. Sorry, Michael, I just decided to blast in.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I just realized I missed a section, but just finish and then we'll go back. So
it's pull request 44731. It's add auto detect family option. I believe I'm the one who added it to the agenda, and but even if I didn't, what happened is this is about implementing happy eyeballs, and it was it would be a breaking change, but it would fix some significant problems we've seen in Node 18. Originally, it needed TSC attention because the plan was to make it default, and which is a breaking change, but to land it as a feature rather than a breaking change. Someone made the suggestion that let's land it as opt-in only, and then in a separate PR, land it as the default, and we can just talk about just that aspect of it. I am in favor of landing it as default behavior and accepting that we're putting a breaking change into the 18 line, and we should do that before it goes LTS. However, that can be a discussion for another day. For now, though, plan is to land happy eyeball soon and go from there. Beth has her hand up. Take it away, Beth.
Yeah, sure. The only thing with the LTS date, we have set the LTS date as, I want to say, around the 28th of October, and towards that end of the month. And we tried to keep the baking time from current to the LTS transition. We tried to preserve that. So in theory, everything that ships on the day it changes to LTS should have landed 2 weeks before that date. So the point I'm just trying to say here is if this needs to land before it goes LTS, it has about 2 weeks to do so max, without us breaking policy or changing the LTS date.
So in other words, we might not have enough time to do the 2 PR approach of land it as opt-in and follow up with land as default.
I think we would have that time if we.
But we're cutting it close. Is the gist.
Yeah, I think Danielle's release is scheduled, which is the last release before LTS, for the 4th of October, which doesn't give much time at all. I suspect that one might be delayed to the 11th, but I think that would be it, because that's only the 2 week, like that's the cutoff for the 2 weeks, unless you want to start making exceptions, pushing out the LTS date. So yeah, just to add the sense of urgency there if people want to see it specifically before LTS. But I'm +1 anyway. Even if it happens after LTS, I'd be +1 as long as we can describe it and articulate it.
For the better.
How breaking is this in theory versus in practice?
My sense is that in practice, it's not very breaking. Yeah. But I would want someone who knows more about it to
I was bitten by this. I think a lot of people consider this behavior broken in 18. Like it feels
current
buggy.
behavior.
Yeah, this is much more of a bug fix than it is a breaking change. I mean, from a user's perspective. From a user's perspective, it's like I bind to localhost and it just doesn't work a lot of the time. And I don't know why, you know, and then if I'm doing stuff where it's levels deep, like I'm running a dev server through a build tool, you know, it doesn't work because it's binding to local, you know, it's like there's all sorts of, it just feels completely broken to users. It's because it's behaving as intended, which is like resolve localhost to IPv6 one, you know, blah, blah, blah. Like there's reasons it behaves the way it does, but so it's not technically a bug in the intent from the intent of the developers, but users I think feel it like gets a bug, and that's why I'm much more like, yeah, let's +1 make it default. Unless I'm misrepresenting it, someone who knows it better.
I guess it comes down to like, is there going to be somebody who cares whether they connect with IPv4 or IPv6? Because
this is a discussion that should happen in the issue tracker, I think.
Okay. So it's on here as an FYI, basically.
At this point, yes. When I placed it on, I thought we needed to make a decision, but turns out we.
Well, could we? I guess like, do we have consensus that this could land as on by default, and then we could like relay that into the issue that like, yeah, TSC gives you permission if you think this is the way you want to go.
I think for me, that's why I was asking the questions about, are there people who care one way or the other? So.
Got it. Go for it.
I mean, do we think there's people who care whether they use IPv4 or v6? Because I think that's the main thing that it may change on end user.
I mean,
like,
I guess there's still some way to opt out, isn't there? Even if we make this the default.
Yeah, but it's the whether it's breaking or not. Like I totally get the pain because I've had the exact same one where I'm on a machine, the IPv6 doesn't work. So from that perspective, I'm totally on board. The question is, and the answer may be no, but like, are there people who will be upset if they expected it to use 6 and it uses 4 instead? If we can convince ourselves the answer to that is no, then I think it's good personally.
I think the problem is at the moment it's not deterministic because it completely depends on external factors to Node. It depends on when Node queries for host. You know, you want to connect to some website somewhere. It completely depends on how your network has been configured and your operating systems to which of the possible IP addresses for that, you know, the address you're trying to go to comes back first. And the big difference in 18 is at the moment, 18 doesn't attempt to resort those addresses. Prior to that, we always used to stick the IPv4 addresses ahead of anything else. So prior to 18, you would probably be going IPv4 unless you didn't have an IPv4.
But there is a flag to control that.
There is a flag. There's an existing flag outside of this PR we're talking about that controls the sourcing behavior. So if you were concerned about whether you wanted to be IPv6 or IPv4, there's an existing flag already that you can be picking to do that. What we're talking about here is what happens if you've not set that flag and you're just picking up the defaults. There is now in 18, there's a change of behavior from the previous versions. And I think the general agreement seems to be that the current 18 behavior is far too surprising or unexpected to most users. You know, if they're coming up from node 16 to 18, you know, as one LTS to the next, then it's probably going to surprise a lot of people, you know, no matter how much we highlight it in the release notes.
I think in this case, though, if you use that other option and said prefer IPv4 with happy,
yes, you'd get the notes.
Like you could still get IPv6 even if you set that. If we make the changes being discussed, if it opens both, right? Like it opens both, and whichever one wins.
That is correct. Yes.
But
and
maybe
now I'm feeling again that this is something that needs to be in the issue tracker because other people are going to need to have this conversation, not just be 10 of us here.
Right. So, but it does. I'll make a suggestion there based on some of the discussion, because like I think if we actually, I'll make the suggestion there, and would help me be comfortable anyway. Okay. So anything more we want to discuss on that one before we move on?
No, my main concern on that one is that the tests don't currently pass. So that's the major blocker to getting that landed.
I just did a rebase to hope that we get at least some of the
the actual tests in that PR are broken.
Yeah.
Or the implementation. One of the two. Something's wrong. specific to that PR.
Thanks.
Okay, right. So the next issue is recharter the ecosystem security working group number 1081. I think Rich, you added this one as well.
Yeah, so the current ecosystem security working group charter mentions the Node.js Foundation and the entities that don't exist anymore. And we know that their activity has changed radically since they were first chartered, and I don't think we ever rechartered them. So it's probably a good idea to recharter them, or another option would be to decharter them, as I'm of the opinion that for the most part, we do not really distinguish between working groups and teams. We have working groups that do nothing. We have teams that work really hard. It's just so anyway, I just, I think we should, but this suggestion was made back in September of last year, and it's been over a year. We haven't done anything. So I thought I would prod us to maybe do something. So there we are. And I don't know that we have to do anything today at this meeting, but
Yeah, I guess our choice is, what are we going to ask for, decharter or recharter? Because I think if we said recharter, we could ask the working group, who's now fairly active, to propose a new charter.
Maybe what I'll do actually is I'll see, they got to have an agenda label for like a security agenda
Yeah.
label or something. So
Yep. Yeah, there's meetings, and if you tag it, it'll show up there. And
I tag it, and then let me see if we have that already in here. Security WG agenda. There we go. Okay, so I've just added that, and I'll also add a note. Security WG. TSC is trying to figure out if we need to update your charter or simply de-charter you and let you folks continue to work as a GitHub team rather than an official working group. Okay, I'll type that up and leave a comment.
yeah, I think that's a good way to go. So
And I'll leave it on the TSC agenda. I'll leave the label on, but if it gets resolved before then, great.
okay, I know that we want to reserve some time for private sessions, so I'm going to suggest we skip strategic initiatives unless anybody has some critical updates they want to share. Okay, if not, so at this point, I think we can close out the meeting. Thanks for everybody for